Alright, so I just wanted to go ahead and share this with you guys real quick. I was talking to this customer. They said they were having concerns about air quality issues. They had a service tech out here, did a maintenance, and they informed them about this growth, mold, and things like that. Okay, so they had a maintenance in April. First thing I noticed when I walked up in here was this here. You know what that is, and let's see if it's zooming in properly or for too much light. So you see that zone damper is about 50% of the way open, and I've got both zones calling right now. Okay, so if you take a look at our temperature split, look at our return and supply. Return is 63 degrees. Okay, supply is 45. And it was worse than that a second ago before I opened the second zone. It was like 50 something. The return was like 50 degrees. I had like a 10 degree split. So when I opened that second zone, it actually helped a bit, even though it didn't really close much more, that zone. So what's happening is basically it's recycling this air back through to return this really cold air, and it's just causing way too low of a supply temperature. So what we're going to go ahead and do first and foremost, we're just going to go ahead and adjust this here so it's closed all the way down when the system, look how crazy, look how far open that is. You can see high static it's showing. It's just not closing down. Okay, here we go. See, well, we're already maxed out. I don't know why it does that. Okay, so it might be sticking in there somehow. Open it up some. Try to. That's weird. It might be sticking. Let's see if so I've got easy access to this damper here. So what I'm gonna do is gonna keep my hand on this damper, and we'll see as I close it. You just want it to barely open and make sure it shuts back up. You see it's not shutting back up very easily. So maybe some of this insulation. Let's see. Close it. Close it manually here. See, it just barely is opening. Let it shut back up. I'm gonna try to do a little less. And I'm closing it downstairs as well. That's probably all we're gonna want right there. But I just don't like how it's not closing up all the way. So that's more than likely what happened. Someone overdid it because it's just not closing properly. Okay. So look, I'm going all the way back to where it was. See, it's just not closing back down. Yeah. We'll have to fix that. We'll have to figure that out. So as you can see, now you got a much more accurate interpretation of what that return temperature really is. Temp split 22 degrees. And I just went ahead and I'm going to lock it down for now. I'm just going to keep it closed down. I'm going to check my static pressure to see if we even need it, to be honest with you. Because if our total static isn't that offensive, with one zone, especially the downstairs zone, closed, because heating mode is going to run less airflow. So the way you want to set up a zone system, if your downstairs thermostat closes down and the static pressure is still okay, you should be fine to not even use a barometric damper, because once you throw that thing in heating mode, it's going to have less airflow, and essentially the upstairs is going to be the one that's closing more prominently. So not to say it won't close at all downstairs, but it's going to be more biased toward your upstairs, if that makes sense. So we're just going to check our total static. and see what we're working with here. So I've got my static probe tips here. I can just kind of penetrate that simply. So we got 0.35 on the return. That's not bad. I feel like the supply is going to be nice. I really do, just by the look of it. So for our supply, I'm just going to simply got my bit extender. We're just going to literally grab one of these screws out of this pressure switch. I mean, not pressure switch. Sorry, the limit switch here for the heat exchanger, and do the same thing here. Put our probe. This little probe will fit in that heat exchanger, in the screw hole for the heat exchanger limit. Pop it in there like such. Okay. So that's not good. We got a 0.4 on the supply, and that's with both zones open. So if we close the upstairs, or sorry, we're closing the downstairs now. Shucks. 0.95. 0.93. And I feel like the airflow is already set pretty low to this system. Okay, so the next thing I like to do, with this being a zone system, I'm going to check and see what kind of motor this is. If this is an ECM motor, then I'm going to literally, we're going to have to figure out something to mitigate that bypass. Basically, either repair it so where it's not slipping, where it's not sticking, or maybe on quote I'm doing like a dump zone to where it's actually not just cycling back into the return, but it's dumping somewhere in a location in the house that's not as critical. Reason being, ECM motors they essentially are a lot more vulnerable to high static pressure conditions. But if this is a PSC motor, then we'll be fine just letting it do its thing. Don't basically shut the bypass off completely, and then let the motor slip as the static pressure increases. Because a PSC motor is not necessarily trying to ramp up. It doesn't cause overheating. You will lose capacity, but the motor itself isn't being affected, or isn't, it's not costing you more energy. It actually costs less energy. As the static pressure increases, the PSC motor is actually drawing less current, and it's just automatically kind of governing itself as far as ramping down in speed. Yes, it's like I said, you're losing capacity, but it's not causing any harm to the motor as it would with a ECM motor, a variable speed motor. So what we're doing now, I'm going to check my wattage, and that's going to give me an indication of what the actual type of motor it is. Usually, from my experience, if the motor is above a point, maybe like a 0.85, if the motor's above 0.85 power factor, then essentially it's going to tell me that's going to be a PSC motor. So I'm just going to check, and this is how we check our wattage. So we're going to put one probe here in the black. Let's see. Put our red to the black here. Man, I can't believe my headlamp is dead already. And there you go. That's unity. Nice. So we've got power factor of 1. So we know for sure that's a PSC motor. ECM is not going to give you that. So we're just going to go ahead and save that. Okay. Now, if you don't want to trust that, or if you don't have a meter, I mean, for this situation, it's a lot more. You can either take your borescope, pull your filter, peek your head in there, right? Kind of see what's going on. There you go. There's your purple lines that was going up the capacitor. You've got no module on the back of the motor, PSC motor. Okay, so that's a good thing. So in that sense, I'm not too worried about running that bypass, because like I said, that's probably, believe it or not, that's probably causing damage to the compressor and everything, running that bypass like that, bypass damper. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the static pressure before this filter media cabinet. So this is basically going to show me where a lot of my bottleneck is, which I'm knowing it's going to be this filter media cabinet. But I want to see how much the return in this, all these ducts themselves, how much, because what we will be able to do, maybe, potentially, is add another cabinet to this box, have maybe one coming off to the side, one coming off the top, connect the plenum directly to the side of the furnace, and that'll give us a lot more, that'll free up our return static. So I'm adding one on this side of the filter, as you see. So what we're doing is we're measuring our pressure drop across this filter media. Okay, so as you can see, literally all we've got, it's not bad at all. We've got a 0.07 on this side of the filter, meaning the only pressure drop that the ductwork is causing in this plenum box is less than 1/10 of an inch of water column, which gives us so much headroom to work with. So we can literally add another 20 by 25 by 5, take this one out of, so it's not running, obviously we don't want it running in series, we want it running parallel. So we basically take this from the main, install it on the front or top, and then install another one on the front or top. And that way we can actually, take this, maybe so we've got a nice large 16, I think that's a 16. And we've got another 14 running for your downstairs. So that's going to help out a lot. 0.34. Let's take a look at the job link. Shows a much better, it'll show your actual drop, your differential, without having to do the math. So your 0.27 drop, which is not terrible. It's not the end of the world, but if we can get that down to like a 0.15 or something, I think that'll help. So yeah, a lot of our issue is going to be in our supply, as usual with zone systems, right? It's nothing new. So we got a 0.4 on the supply. Okay, but yeah, if we can get that return down nicely, I have a feeling our airflow is set pretty low as well. If we can get that return down to like a 0.2, that'll get us to a 0.5, like a 0.6 or so, with both zones open. But yeah, we might even be able to get a little lower than 0.2, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me see if we can, and what that's going to do as well, that's going to hit two birds with one stone. She's going to be able to get a lot better filtration, probably upgrade her media, use those $120, $150 Lennox charcoal filters. They've got like 1,000 pleats in them, so they're not really as restrictive as you would think for the MERV value. And yeah, I think we can get this taken care of very nicely. Alright, and another thing we're going to go ahead and do as well, I'm going to set these here pressure relief controls, and they're not necessarily pressure relief as much as it just doesn't allow it to close all the way. So I'm just going to set that to 50%. And that's not even 50%. The halfway mark isn't going to indicate whether it only closes. I mean, it's going to close about 60% of the way, as you can see. That's where it's stopping. So that's going to help as well with the, and I'm going to do that with this one as well. And it's going to help with not necessarily utilizing this bypass anymore, because like I said, we don't really like the bypass in the Carolinas here, and if the system's not really set up for it properly, if the ductwork's not set up for it properly, we don't want to utilize that. Yeah, it does have a TXV that will help. Definitely don't want them with a piston-driven system, driven metering device, but because otherwise, that superheat might not get governed properly. But yeah, we're looking pretty good. That'll work. And what we usually do when adjusting these, we usually recommend them having the maintenance, sign up for maintenance. That way in this summer we can bias the, have it open more toward, where it's bleeding more on the upstairs zone. In the winter we do the same. We'll swap that around, and we'll have it to where it's bleeding more on the downstairs zone and close a bit more on the upstairs zone. So that way it's kind of like basically forcing more air where it's needed most. But we'll also advise the customer, show them how to do it, and they can come up here and do that every season. So it's kind of a little bit like a hybrid, where you're not necessarily having to manually close down your upstairs and downstairs damper. It's auto-controlled zone, but at the same time you have to do a little bit of manual tinkering to get the best results. What I'm going to do as well, I'm going to go ahead and verify the blower speed on this thing simply by, once again, grab my little meter here, and I'm just going to grab one of these speed taps if possible. Should be able to reach it, but we might not be able to take you along with us. So let's see here. I'm gonna grab black first. It's my first guess. Turn the light on there. Aha, nothing on black. So I knew we weren't running high speed. It's just too quiet. And we have a high temperature split. We have a 22 degree temp split. Oh, it is raining out there. It's not red. And I guess that means it's gonna have to be yellow. No? Black. Brown. Good brown. Oh yeah, there it goes. So it's brown. Whatever brown is. Don't know that by heart. I'm going to grab the manual. Okay, so they really wanted me to check out this evaporator coil. I got my Kai Wheats borescope here. So we're just going to go ahead and insert it directly down and through our limit switch cover. Let's see if we can we can see. I'm going to get up on it. Everything looks good. We don't have any growths. All right.